Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Hawks Latest, your number one source for news, updates, rumors, opinions, and you guessed it, the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. I'm your host, Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL. Today, we've got a full slate of updates to break down for you. This is the 153rd episode of Hawks Latest presented by FanArt, so hopefully you guys have been enjoying the ride. I know I have, but like I said, we got a lot to break down today, so if you guys could go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe before this video gets started, it would be very much appreciated. It would go a very long way. But yeah, so the Hawks are back in action tonight, and losses have been piling up. The vibes around the team are not very high, honestly, but there have been signs of growth, and we've been seeing some better habits build on. There have been some meaningful developments worth discussing, and we're going to break that down in today's episode. I mean, from Onyeka Okongwu just really transforming his offensive game and being a lone bright spot amidst the losses, to injury reinforcements finally on the way. We got some major news regarding one of Atlanta's big men. I'm sure you guys know exactly who I'm talking about. You see him right here, but I'm going to talk all about that. And then to some clarity regarding the Hawks' long-term trade assets. There's been a lot of trade talk recently, and we've covered it all on the channel here. But there are specific players, or there's a player and some specific asset that is not going to be dealt regardless of the situation. And finally, like I said in the beginning of today's episode, we're back in action tonight. The Hawks have the Minnesota Timberwolves at home, and I say tonight, but game time is at 3 p.m. Eastern, so we don't have that much longer. Since this after this recording comes out, that the Hawks will be playing. So be sure to remember that. Happy New Year's Eve. We're gonna start 2026 off. Hopefully, with a little bit of a win streak. The Hawks have a little bit of time off, into the new year, but they will be back in action before you know it. But yeah, this episode is gonna be a little bit more about perspective. Yes, the Hawks are struggling right now for sure, in the standings, but there are real signs of internal growth and strategic direction that could shape this season and the future and just how it all unfolds. So let's start with really the most encouraging storyline of the past week, the resurgence of Onyeka Okongwu. And saying resurgence sounds a little bit unfair. I mean, yes, he had been struggling in the prior weeks heading into these past two games, but he's still overall, if we're judging his season, has been pretty solid. I would say it's a good season that Onyeka's having, kind of a breakout. I mean, if you compare his numbers this year to any previous year. So before Saturday night's matchup against the New York Knicks, which that's not fresh on y'all's minds, I'm sure, because we've played a game since then, but it was 2 games ago, and that was really what started Onyeka off, with this stellar offensive stretch. Okongwu had quietly begun to struggle in terms of overall production heading into that matchup, but more specifically, he was not hitting from beyond the arc, and that was the biggest development really in his game this year. That was kind of the biggest thing that has given him this leap. It was his incredible shooting and how he was letting it fly from beyond the arc, the confidence and his ability to knock him down. And so that had really started to slow down, and it was growing a bit concerning for me specifically. I was a little upset that he was not knocking down at the same rate. He had actually missed each of his 7 previous 3-point attempts heading into the game, and that wasn't the first slump. Like a couple games back before that, I mean, he had another stretch like this where he had missed like 6 in a row, and he just was not looking nearly as consistent as he has been from beyond the arc. And rather than shying away from the perimeter, I mean, Okongwu just kept that confidence, and that's a big Quinn Snyder thing. As much as we, dog on Quinn Snyder because, of whether that's a questionable rotation decision or just something you flat out disagree with regarding Quinn. One thing that he has stayed true to is just making sure his players continue to let it fly despite not shooting well. And, that can be frustrating at times, but that is how you keep a player confident. That is how you make sure a player never stops, shooting the ball and then gets back into their offensive rhythm in no time. But with that sentiment, it became very clear early on in that Knicks game that Okongwu was due for a big night. He delivered. He wasted absolutely no time making his presence felt, and Snyder and the coaching staff made sure to get him involved early. The Hawks opened a game with a clear emphasis on getting him involved, especially from deep. In the first quarter alone, Okongwu knocked down 2 3-pointers. Actually, Atlanta's 6 of their first 8 points. And so that early aggression not only set the tone just for him, but for the entire offense, because the Hawks, over these past 2 games, have drained a lot of threes. He wasn't done there in that game. He added another triple in that second quarter, finishing the first half 3 of 4 from beyond the arc. And so despite his strong play, Atlanta still entered halftime trailing by 13. So they needed a spark, in the second half if they were going to remain competitive. Remain competitive with this good New York Knicks team, who is probably the best team in the Eastern Conference. Like, it's the Pistons and the Knicks, but I would still give the edge to the Knicks just considering their experience and who they have on that roster, because it's a stacked roster. And so Okongwu needed to sustain that momentum, and Quinn Snyder clearly recognized that. They went from one first half philosophy where they were making sure Okongwu was involved early, and then they applied that exact same philosophy in the second half. And it paid off for not only Okongwu, but for the Hawks in general. They opened the third quarter by immediately getting Okongwu another clean look from deep. And once again, he delivered. I mean, he was just on it. He was letting it fly. He was looking great from beyond the arc. That basket was followed by a tough finish from the inside that resulted in an and one. So that's not technically a three, but he got 3 points on the possession. So, might as well count it. It showcased the full versatility of his offensive game because, we're talking all about his three-point shooting, but this is a very versatile offensive player. I mean, he can operate at the top of the key, be a playmaker, act as a hub for the offense, and then he can fly around the court. He can hit middies, he can hit deep balls, he can finish inside. Just has the full offensive package that you would want from a center. The only thing holding him back really is his size, which allows for other bigs to kind of have good nights on him, which that's a problem. It's a legit problem, but we're focusing more on the positives surrounding Okongwu right now. And then in this game against the Knicks, the game that looked like it was going to be close, it started to slip away, and then it began to kind of creep back. The Hawks, kind of just continued to stay competitive. They stormed back, cutting the deficit to just 6 points by the end of the third quarter, and so heading into the fourth, hope was very much alive. And guess who was at the center of it? Onyeka Okongwu. It came the biggest moment of his night, with just 3 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter. They needed someone to come up clutch. They needed someone to confidently knock down some shots and get Atlanta back within the swing of things. And they relied on Onyeka Okongwu again, and he drilled back-to-back three-pointers in the final 3 minutes. And that sequence actually gave the Hawks their first lead since the opening moment of the game. It was a defining stretch, not just for the game, but for his season. Okongwu was not doing anything remotely close to this last season, so that growth as a player is ridiculous. So he finished that night, despite the loss, he finished that night with a career-defining stat line. He had 31 points, 14 rebounds, and he was 6 of 10 from three. And impressively, that production didn't stop there, because the very next game, which was Atlanta's previous game against the Oklahoma City Thunder, Okongwu had a great performance. He had 26 points, 14 rebounds, again, 6 assists, which highlights the playmaking that I was just talking about. 1 steal, and he was 3 for 6 from beyond the arc. So just another efficient shooting night while just being an overall threat offensively. And he couldn't prevent Chet Holmgren from having a big night. That was kind of the problem that I mentioned earlier. Of his size is going to restrict him a whole lot, because he is a smaller center, and when going against the towers of the league, it's going to be a problem. But he kept up with him offensively, and sometimes that's as much as you can do. He now has 8 double-doubles on the season, which isn't too particularly high for a center, but it is still a solid number, including 14 rebounds in back-to-back games. So that rebounding is improving. I think with that players only meeting, I think the Hawks noted that they wanted to be more aggressive. They wanted to control the tempo on the boards, and that has been on display. Back-to-back games with 14 rebounds for Onyeka Okongwu. I think that's very good. That's very good. Hopefully he can keep it up today against the big Minnesota Timberwolves. We'll have a full breakdown of that game later. He's actually made 9 3-pointers over his last 2 contests alone. So just letting it fly from out there, it is opening up everything for Atlanta's offense. That's elite outside shooting for a player traditionally known for his interior play. And so through 33 games, Okongwu is averaging 16.4 points and 7.8 rebounds. And while he's not quite at a double-double average, he could get closer to that mark if he continues to rebound the ball like he has been and continues to score like he has been as well. It's trending upward, and this is going to lead us perfectly. This is just a great transition into the very next segment, because guess what? It's not just going to be Okongwu, just kind of holding down the center position for the foreseeable future, because the Atlanta Hawks are getting Kristaps Porzingis back today. KP is back. We have missed him very badly. We have missed his everything surrounding his game has just kind of left a hole in Atlanta's offensive and defensive scheme. It's allowed for teams to bully us down low. I mean, we are missing a reliable scoring threat, a solid rim protector. He's not a good rebounder, so we haven't been missing his rebounding. But I mean, having another 7 foot guy, well, a 7 foot guy out there, like it's going to improve your rebounding regardless of if he's a skilled rebounder or not. And it's not just Kristaps Porzingis returning; it's Jalen Johnson. He missed just one game. He missed last game against the Thunder, which obviously Atlanta very much missed Jalen's production against the Oklahoma City Thunder, and so like getting him back is going to be very huge. And Trae Young is actually listed as questionable with a right quad contusion. It's the same thing. That's he's slowly working back into game speed. So hopefully he suits up, but we do not know if he will yet. At the time of this recording, we haven't gotten a single update on that front. And so Kristaps, having missed the last 10 games he played 13 games, and then he went down with, well, he didn't really go down with anything, but they were managing his workload, because he's been dealing with that illness, and it's hard for him to stay on the floor for too many minutes. And so they're managing his return to action, but he has missed the past 10 games. And so him returning just gives Atlanta a huge boost on both ends of the floor. It's exactly the momentum shift that Atlanta needed, considering that they've lost 7 games in a row. All 3 of the stars that we mentioned were unavailable in Monday night's loss to the Thunder. But perhaps that game kind of served as a reset, if you will. The Hawks' struggles in December have largely stemmed from defensive breakdowns, many of which even occurred before Trae returned from his extended knee absence. A lot of people are blaming the poor defense solely on Trae being back, but that's not the case. If you're really paying attention, like obviously Trae's not going to help them defensively. I mean, he's not a good defender. We know that. But he's not been the one that's been handicapping the defense. I mean, it really was taking a dive. It was getting really poor. And then Trae came back, and obviously that's not going to help anything. It might help the offense, but it was not helping any sort of production on the defensive end. So it's not his fault entirely, but he's obviously not helping the defense. So at the heart of the issue, though, the defensive issues, size and depth at the center position, and really just in the front court, has been kind of what's been a problem for Atlanta. The Hawks anticipated Kristaps Porzingis to miss time this season. I mean, that was the expectation. They weren't going into a season with Kristaps Porzingis like, okay, hopefully he can play 75 games. Like, no, they're not stupid. Honestly, Soleil knew the problem he was getting into. However, I don't know if he expected it to be this bad, this early in the season. And so he attempted to prepare by adding some, more front court depth. I mean, he drafted Asa Newell, which, he's been really good, so that has been a very huge plus. But then he also added N'Faly Dante, and that's a guy who tore his ACL. And so, Newell's been reliable, but he's really struggled in the like very few minutes that he's gotten at center. They've also played Mo Gay at center sometimes, and that's a solid option, but Gay is skinny. I mean, he's not someone who can consistently play the center rotation. I mean, the center position. So, I mean, they've heavily leaned on Onyeka Okongwu. And so Okongwu is going to be really happy getting this guy back because I'm sure Kristaps Porzingis will be coming off the bench today. That is nothing confirmed. That is nothing set in stone. But just using an educated guess, I think you guys can probably agree with me here. I don't think they're just going to take a Kongu out of the starting lineup and then just throw Porzingis in there. Although they may feel like they want to really switch things up because we lost 7 in a row, so maybe throw Porzingis in the starting lineup. I don't know. I just don't think they would do that. Maybe throw him in the starting lineup and then play him limited minutes. There's been no reports on that front, so we're going to find out. Y'all are going to find out when I find out, to say if y'all watch today's game. And so, Porzingis is invaluable for an Atlanta Hawks team right now. At 7'2", he immediately addresses Atlanta's most glaring weakness. Rebounding is not his strongest trait, but his rim protection and his floor spacing really perfectly complement Atlanta's wings. And he was the biggest addition this offseason for a reason, because we were really excited to see them with a true stretch big veteran presence who has won before. It was supposed to be a huge boost. So we're going to see it all tonight against the Minnesota Timberwolves. And so, Jalen coming back too, and Trae potentially coming back. Like we could be seeing the healthy Atlanta Hawks for the first time really since the beginning of the season. If they can maintain even a fraction of that shooting efficiency with the stars back, this team has potential to be a legitimate offensive powerhouse. It's just a matter of staying afloat on the defensive end, and they need a win streak. I mean, we've lost 7 in a row. We're now 4 games under 500. We need a win streak more than we need air. And what better way to enter the new year than by knocking off the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight? We'll have a full breakdown of that game in the final segment of today's episode, which is coming up shortly. But before that, we're gonna kind of switch to the trade front. And so, like there has been a lot of trade talk, and we have been discussing trades on this channel. I mean, we did all off season, but I didn't expect it to be super busy heading into the season, but it has been. I mean, the Anthony Davis to the Hawks rumors. I mean, when there's smoke, there's fire, and there has been a lot of smoke regarding that. And so it hasn't been just AD too. I mean, we've talked about Giannis, we've talked about some guys, other guys from the Mavericks. I mean, there's a lot of, especially when your team loses 7 games in a row. I mean, there are a lot of things to discuss, and trades are really at the top of that. And so, we've gotten some clarity surrounding 2 critical assets. And so, according to NBA insider Mark Stein, and also several other credible insiders have reported on this, and this should come as absolutely no surprise. But both Jalen Johnson and the Hawks' unprotected 2026 first-round pick from the New Orleans Pelicans / Milwaukee Bucks, those are the 2 assets considered untouchable. They will not be thrown into any trade scenarios, approaching the deadline. And it's the correct decision. It is absolutely something that should be the case. So I'm glad that they're putting their foot down. They're saying, no, we're not going to include Jalen in anything. Even in a trade for Giannis, which, some have projected, and obviously not for AD. And even then, like Mavs fans seem to believe that they're going to get the 2026 Pelicans pick for AD, which it's just not happening. I mean, there's no chance at it. I mean, even if there wasn't this report, I could have told you that the Hawks would not throw in that 2026 unprotected first round pick for Anthony Davis. Like, it was never going to happen. It's not going to happen now because it's now out there that it is an untouchable asset for the Hawks. And so Jalen Johnson, he's not just a part of the Hawks' future, like he is the future. I mean, he is the guy that they are focusing on building this roster around for the foreseeable future. In his 5th NBA season, he is putting up all NBA numbers. He's probably going to be an all-star. Well, no, not probably. He's going to be an all-star. They better not rob him of an all-star appearance. I mean, the dude is averaging 23, 10, and 8. And in the month of December, despite all of the losses that have been piling up, he's averaging over a 25-point triple-double. I mean, it's not even close. Like, I mean, he is exceeding triple-double numbers, exceeding 25-point triple-double numbers, and has been just incredibly effective. There's only one other player in the league putting up the numbers that Jalen is putting up or higher, and that's Nikola Jokic. And now Jokic is going to miss some time with an injury, so Jalen Johnson can kind of take over as the league's Mr. Triple-Double while Jokic is out. And as for the Pelicans pick, obviously New Orleans sits at the bottom of the Western Conference, and they have, very high odds to land that number 1 pick, and so I mean, that selection could very much turn into a franchise-altering player, and that's not an opportunity Atlanta wants to miss out on. I mean, the top 3 of this 2026 draft is very, very stacked. It is going to be really good. You can't go wrong with anyone in the top 3, and even extending it to 4. Like we talked about Caleb Wilson on this channel. That guy is slowly creeping into my top 3, honestly. Like, he may be a dream fit for Atlanta, just his versatility. But even if that Pelicans pick lands at 4, I mean, like, you're going to have a chance to land one of those top 4 guys, which that's franchise defining. I mean, all 4 of those guys would probably go number 1 in like literally any other draft. That's how stacked this draft class is, and the Hawks don't want to miss out on an opportunity. So obviously that pick is untouchable. So while a win now trade is going to be tempting, and there is a very high probability at this point that they do end up making that trade for Anthony Davis because there's just too much smoke to deny. This is one of those rare situations where patience outweighs urgency. Staying steady it would not be the incorrect call. I would be happy with really either, but these 2, regardless of what trade the Hawks end up making, these 2 will not be included, and that right there is the right decision. So now let's move on to game day. The Atlanta Hawks are back in action tonight against, today. I keep saying tonight because, that's what I'm used to. I'm not used to the Hawks playing an early Wednesday game. And that's unheard of, but it is New Year's Eve. And after losing 7 straight games, and 11 of their last 13. The Hawks return home Wednesday afternoon to face a surging Minnesota Timberwolves team that has won 11 of its last 15, led by obviously none other than Anthony Edwards. The Hawks are going to have a tough time controlling him tonight, but if you can do that, you could put yourself in a pretty good position to go home. We'll stay home with a W and then enter 2026 with a lot of momentum. I mean, I'm not going to call this a must-win because it's against a Western Conference opponent, and it is still technically December, so it is very early in the season. But this has everything that you would consider a must-win game. Like all of the components of this game. It could be huge for momentum. It could be huge for the lineup decisions they make in the new year. It could be huge for the trade decisions they make in the new year. Like this is a game that the Hawks need to win, just for the morale of the team. Once again, Onyeka Okongwu is a major bright spot, so I mean I'm expecting him to continue on his hot stretch. And in Porzingis' absence, Okongwu's numbers that we talked about earlier, they're even better. With Porzingis not in the lineup, Okongwu's averaging 17.6 points, 8.9 rebounds, 3.9 assists, and 1.1 blocks. I mean, Quinn Snyder has repeatedly praised his growth. I mean, noting his confidence, aggression, and selflessness. I mean, he has been great. And so we're going to see if he can continue that trend with Porzingis back in the lineup tonight. And we're going to see if Porzingis maybe gets the start or comes off the bench. If I had to put my money on it, I would say he probably comes off the bench tonight. But, that's my opinion. But I think it's a pretty educated guess. Minnesota is entering with a little bit of momentum, which should be a little bit scary for the Hawks. They're coming off of a dominant win over Chicago. And they're led by Anthony Edwards, like we mentioned earlier. I mean, just one of the best scorers in the league. Very high volume three-point shooter who knocks him down at an efficient rate. Very difficult player to stop because he's also a very solid defender. I mean, one day we go get Anthony Edwards in the A. He's meant to be here. But they also have Julius Randle, who does typically play well against the Hawks, and Naz Reid, who is that sharpshooter who sometimes starts, sometimes comes off the bench. With Rudy Gobert healthy, he'll probably come off the bench. He scored 33 off the bench Monday night, so I mean, the Hawks' second unit really has to lock in on him. So this matchup is really going to test Atlanta's interior defense and ball security. I mean, this is a great matchup for KP to come back during because they have some beasts down low. They have a lot of big bodies that are going to be hard to contain. And KP is going to this is going to be like a team that really benefits from having KP in the lineup against a physically intimidating Minnesota Timberwolves team. And if you can get a W against a very good Western Conference opponent, this is going to do all the wonders for the morale. I may be overstating it, but I don't think I am, because I think that a win here heading into the new year will do much more than most people realize. Because after this matchup against the Timberwolves, I mean, the Hawks have the Knicks and they have the Raptors twice. It might be the Raptors twice and then the Knicks. But regardless, those are the next three opponents. So then if you can win tonight and then you can start a little win streak against very solid Eastern Conference opponents, you are completely flipping the script on your season. And they may decide to keep this core together. Maybe that's not for the best. Maybe that is for the best. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on that down below. But yeah, to recap, the Hawks are still searching for consistency, but between Okongwu's breakout and the return of Kristaps Porzingis, and really the commitment to long-term stability, the foundation is there. They're not far off. If Atlanta can translate this momentum into wins, the season may still have plenty of life left. Don't give up yet. Hopefully in the next episode, the New Year's Day episode, we'll be breaking down a much-needed W against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So that's going to do it for today's episode of Hawks Latest. If you enjoyed today's breakdown, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single update here on the channel. We're going to be pumping out videos every single day, keep you guys informed on the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. But let me know down below in the comments, what are your thoughts on Onyeka Okongwu's breakout, and then just really the last two games where he has been playing at a very high level. What are your thoughts on KP being back? Should they start him, or should they let him come off the bench and continue to let Onyeka Okongwu thrive next to the starters? Do you agree with Jalen Johnson and the 2026 Pelicans pick being untouchable? I mean, I don't think that should be a controversial one. I think that should be very much the common sentiment. And then also, what are your thoughts on the game today? Do you think the Atlanta Hawks are going to come away with a much-needed victory today against the Minnesota Timberwolves? Can we control Ant-Man? Can Dyson Daniels lock up Ant-Man and then get a W for the Atlanta Hawks? Let me know that all down below. But once again, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and I will see you guys next time.